Okay, and with that, I would like to invite up our moderator, Chantal Dagnaud, who is the President of Institutions and Strategies SAS and will be leading today's discussion. Chantal, I invite you to come onto the screen.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you all to join us for this panel, Economic Recovery and Inclusive Growth in the post-pandemic world. So while the second day of the Island Forum is in a full swing, I would like to thank you first warmly, the Island Forum team, for allowing us to experience such a rich exchange around finance, innovation, and sustainable development. My name is Chantal Dagnaud, and I'm a specialist in international economic diplomacy and international finance. And I will be, it's a very pleasure today to moderate the roundtable about this subject concerning the island scenario. I'm coming from the Guadeloupe, and I'm really leading some different projects in Latin and America, and also in Europe. So today we will discuss about this issue about the economic recovery and financial issue too. So taking the challenge to bring together senior financier, development partners, and regulators to share and exchange expertise on sustainable and inclusive financial structures in Ireland is an unique opportunity, I think, today to highlight how the financial challenge can respond and bring the solution for sustainable economic recovery and inclusive growth in the post-pandemic world. My thoughts go first to the people of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines who are unfortunately have a bad situation and are subjected to the law of the nature. And I just would like to remind you that volcanism has a significant impact on the climate by cooling it, for example. And in this context, and also in the context of the post-pandemic world, any event like that have a global impact. And in this context, we need to consider and should explore new approaches and solutions with economic recovery and inclusive growth. So I will say first that by economic recovery, I define that like the business cycle stage following a recession that is characterized by a sustainable period of improving business activity. Normally, during an economic recovery, we can observe that there is a gross domestic product growing, incomes rise, and employment falls, and the economy rebounds. This is the objective of the economic recovery. And by inclusion growth, I will define this concept that take advantages, equitable opportunities for economic participants during the economic growth period with benefit incurred by every section or sector for the society. So we know that the government today deployed unprecedented policy measures to support the people and the business during the pandemic, COVID pandemic. The effect of many of these measures are likely to be felt long after the pandemic has receded. So the impact of the COVID-related measure is likely to accelerate and already established trends such as deglobalization, automation, and sustainability, and reverse decade-long trends such as international mobility and urbanization. So it's now time to think how the island situation can be an opportunity to define a new economic model to continue to grow into this post-pandemic world. So thanks to our speakers today, the objective of this session will be to present and discuss how the Smart Island project will continue to be a beautiful opportunity, both for businesses and consumers in the island. It will be the occasion to set out some of the key issues and financial decisions relating business growth and the road to economic recovery on island, and showcase also the economic opportunities available from investing in the sustainability sectors on island. So today it's my very pleasure to welcome Kaye-Anne Brathwaite, the CEO of Invest Barbados. And after we have Dr. Jocelyne Clarke-Fletcher, she is ambassador for Diaspora from the government of St. Lucia. Vanessa Toré, she's the Director of Foreign Economic Cooperation from the Ministry of Economic Development of Curaçao. And Alexandra Almeida, she's a Senior Officer Lending Operation from Latin America and Caribbean from the European Investment Bank. So we will seek to demonstrate that island can host pilot projects and produce knowledge on smart and efficient resources and infrastructure management, which may then be transferred in mountains, for example, or rural and generally geographically isolated areas, but also scaled up in big cities in continental Europe and beyond. So I propose that we start with Barbados. For many years, Barbados as a leading destination for foreign direct investment, thanks to its solid international reputation. Now, following a decade of difficulties triggered by the global financial crisis, the small island nation is back to the saddle and racing not just to make up for the last time, but to lead the way in rapidly emerging areas such as the fintech and clean energy, for example. So in this context, it's a pleasure to welcome Kaye-Anne Brathwaite. So she will showcase the economic opportunities available from investing in Barbados. So Kaye-Anne, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chantal. My name is Kaye Brathwaite. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Invest Barbados. It is an honor for me to be on this esteemed panel, and I thank the organizers of this forum for the opportunity to present here today. In my contribution, I will explore some aspects of the Barbados case as it relates to the pandemic and share an approach for recovery and growth post-pandemic. Let me at the onset therefore agree that the impact of the pandemic on the economy has been adverse. Reset, recover, rebuild are the national priorities in the short to medium term, particularly for small island states like Barbados. I apologize, there seems to be an issue with the screen. Let me just... So what were the effects of the pandemic? The pandemic has caused unprecedented economic and social disruption across the globe. Industries, especially tourism and hospitality, the lifeblood of many small island states like Barbados, have been severely impacted, resulting in significant decline in business activity, high levels of unemployment, and significant economic hardships. In Barbados's case, by the end of 2020, our GDP contracted by 18%. This was primarily due to a 71% decline in long-stay arrivals for the year. The spillover effects of this downturn were felt in the wholesale and retail business service sectors, including real estate, car rentals, and the ancillary services subsectors. Today, as we engage in this forum, the global economic and social outlook is still somewhat uncertain, but a more positive future largely depends on our efforts to contain the spread of the virus and its various mutant strains, our ability to continue to vaccinate our population, as well as our ability to implement effective policies that encourage impactful and sustainable economic growth. So, the opportunities to rebuild. The good news is that the pandemic has provided us with the opportunity to pause and reset. Before the onset of the pandemic, since late 2018, in fact, Barbados made pleasing progress in its economic adjustment program with the International Monetary Fund. This program has given us a buffer, allowing us the space to respond to the unpredicted external shock of COVID-19, which might have otherwise significantly impaired our efforts to stabilize and rebuild. The IMF outlook for global growth, though uncertain, remains positive and is projected at 6% in 2021, decreasing to 4.4% in 2022. Most of Barbados's economic partners are projecting strong growth. Against this backdrop, Barbados's economic forecast for 2021 is also positive and hopeful of growth trends towards 5%. So we need to rebuild and rebuild stronger. We need to be more resilient. We need to diversify our markets and our industries. We need to lessen our dependence on tourism in the future and ensure that we do not have all our eggs in one market. For an economy like ours, this means that we must develop other foreign exchange earning sectors as we set our economy on a sustainable recovery trajectory. Protecting the health and well-being of our people is an important first step. This is why the rollout of the vaccines brings much hope. What is the prescription? More even and effective rollout of vaccines, especially to developing and island states, a collaborative approach in initiating new public and private sector partnerships and strengthening existing ones are the means to delivering the greatest impact at both the micro and macro levels. The technology revolution brings a new culture of transparency and accountability for both the private and public sectors, creating greater opportunity for impactful, holistic, sustainable development. Focus on developing new training opportunities for the unemployed. This calls for access to training and institutional strengthening to enhance skill levels and to support emerging sectors such as fintech and the renewable sector. The diversification of our economy and focus on those industries that will not only be the most impactful, but also sustainable in keeping with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Continuing emphasis on improving the ease of doing business and facilitating companies whose objectives are in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. Greater investment in digital infrastructure and renewable energy are priority industries will be required, And as we acknowledge at this forum, funding will be critical, and there is a need for collective effort to obtain the funding needed to build out a sustainable infrastructure. Containment of the virus Barbados was the first independent Caribbean nation to roll out its national vaccination program. 1 in 5 Barbadians have received the first of 2 doses, and Barbados' vaccine rate is the 10th highest in the Americas and the 2nd most vaccinated country in the Caribbean. Emphasis on creativity, agility, openness, and innovation. The welcome stamp. The welcome stamp initiative was a world first and demonstrates Barbados is an ideal jurisdiction in which to live, work, play, and invest. To date, we have attracted over 2,500 welcome stampers. Some of these persons are considering establishing businesses since coming to reside on the island. We embrace an accelerated drive towards digitization and a thrust to increase digital payments across private and government services. Online services now available include payment of personal and corporate taxes, renewal of driver's license, new digital ID cards, and faster passport services. This translates into enhanced competitiveness for Barbados, as well as making it easier to do business. Embracing green technology, building on our leadership in the solar water heater space, which are transiting into solar voltaic and wind in particular, and other forms of renewable energy. Already, the government of Barbados has set 2030 as the year when the country will be generating 100% of its energy from renewable sources. Opportunities include investments in renewable energy systems, energy storage, and energy saving devices. Consider an investment in our collective future. The ongoing promotion of Barbados as a global, compliant, transparent, and regulated domicile remains critical to our progress. We are committed to implementing transformative change. Recently, Barbados ranked second for competitiveness among the Latin American and Caribbean countries in the 29th edition of the Global Financial Centers Index 29. Since its appearance on the index just 3 years ago, Barbados has gained over 40 places to reach its current position. Barbados' efforts to implement new economic policy initiatives will be sustained. We are exploring new ways to achieve food security, industrial transformation, job creation, and fuel investment. At Invest Barbados, our vision is to make Barbados a top choice for investors. In doing so, we will help in rebuilding a more resilient economy and a stronger sovereign nation. If you are interested in exploring our investment opportunities, those mentioned here today and more, let our team at Invest Barbados be your guide. I assure you that a warm and welcoming investment climate awaits you. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Thank you very much, Kaye-Anne. You give us a new opportunity to intend to come and collaborate with you in Barbados. So we keep the question after all the presentation. So I propose that we move on to St. Lucia with Ambassador Dr. Jocelyne Clarke-Fletcher. She's an ambassador for Diaspora, government of St. Lucia. And prior the crisis of COVID, St. Lucia was poised to record the robust economic growth in the region of 3.5% in 2020, according to the International Monetary Fund. As a result of the COVID crisis, unfortunately, this favorable projection is just now significantly changed, with the economy estimated to contract in the range of 8 to 18%. So the government tried to find a solution by launching the social stabilization plan. So this plan aimed to provide social and financial support to both individuals and entities directly impacted by the crisis. So Jocelyne represents for us, she's enhancing the effort of the government to forge link with national overseas, as well as created more dialogue between the two. So the role of the ambassador is to communicate with non-residents from St. Lucia in different countries worldwide, and to assist them in returning home, creating linkage for investment, trade between St. Lucia and where they reside, providing support for giving back ensuring that the policy also are approved, which make it easier for the diaspora to engage in the activities. So Jocelyne, the floor is yours to explain to us how in this context the diaspora can take the opportunity for the economic recovery. Thank you.
I want to thank you all very much. But before we go on, and this is the video, so I want you to have a look at it.
Greetings to our diaspora community. We recognize the central role you play in the development of the St. Lucian Society. The Office of the Diaspora Affairs reassures you of your importance to the growth, social and economic development of our island nation. It is an honor to serve you and to keep St. Lucia's population informed of your many valuable contributions. According to the World Bank figures from 2019, the St. Lucia diaspora has sent almost $43 million in remittances back home. This assists in caring for households, sending children to school, their medical care, and helps in improving the socio-economic stability of many households. You have also made notable investments in St. Lucia. Some of you own businesses, housing projects, farms, Airbnbs, guest houses, and more. Some of you are involved in trading goods and services from St. Lucia to the countries where you reside. You have built houses, own private homes and land, and in so doing, you provide jobs and support our local economy. In your own little way, you also help our tourism industry by telling the story of the nation of your birth. All these activities help increase the island's GDP and improve the socio and economic development of St. Lucia. Like the rest of the world, St. Lucia is now faced with the COVID-19 pandemic, and we all have to learn how to coexist with COVID-19 and focus on the rebuilding of our island society and economy. We believe that this is an opportunity for the diaspora to be part of the recovery of our country. You have the experience, the knowledge, and skills. We want to hear your thoughts and ideas as to how we move forward as a country with your help. Contact the Office of the Diaspora today to find out how you can participate in the recovery and development of St. Lucia. We can do this together.
Thank you very much. And I would just wish to say on behalf of myself and the Government Island Innovation, this is a tremendous opportunity to share a bit of what we're doing and to let people know. And I'm hoping by this video that even if you're not a St. Lucian diaspora, that you'd want to come to St. Lucia, we welcome you. I just wanted to respond to this question that, or the statement that Chantal has made. I'm going to answer this in two parts. Since 2000, there have been the increased debate on the value of diaspora to their homeland. And many surveys have been done, many researchers have written supporting the need to engage the diaspora and see the valuable resource that they are, especially the second and third generation. Regional governments have toyed with the idea, making baby steps in the thrust to engagement. And almost 20 years later, it's still not a priority to be given serious attention or emphasis. The diaspora contribution to foreign direct investment in their home country, which enables development of various sectors and overall stimulates economic growth, help reduce poverty and unemployment levels. The knowledge is up in the host countries exposes them to niche markets, which enables them to create trading links between their host country and the homeland. The skills which they have acquired, they can return home permanently on a short-term, long-term, or consultancy basis to train their fellow brothers and sisters. The Caribbean diaspora share collective memory of their homeland, and they know even with a green card or citizenship, they're still strangers in the country and cannot reach to the level that they would like to because they are not born, bred, or their whole history is about that country, that host country. Now, governments can create policies when I reach directly to what you're saying. But before I go on that, I want to say to you that in 2001, there was a study that showed that there are over 500 million 500,000, sorry, diaspora, Caribbean diaspora, not just St. Lucian, Caribbean diaspora, with the exception of Guyana. And the figures I give, Guyana is not part of that. But they have college degrees and associate degrees. 211,494 have bachelor degrees. Now that's, remember, it's 2001. 213,194 have graduate professional degrees. That's like PhDs and so on. And over 400,827, 400,827 engage in management, professional, and related occupation and their own businesses as well. Now, we have to understand, okay, that the Caribbean diaspora and these people with that type of level of education, including second and third generation, they're under the age of 50 that have that type of educational level, okay? And these people are in the United States only. So that's not even the whole world where we have diaspora all over the world, but we're talking about just a concentrated area. Think of those highly skilled, intelligent persons with their own resources, what they can do for the Caribbean or for their homeland if we were to seriously engage them and take them on. So I am saying that the way governments can do that, and our government has started, is to reduce the cost of remittances and bank transfers, enhance the speed and the reliability and quality of those transfers, expanding international and domestic remittance networks, improving fee transparency, developing and promote public education and information that the diaspora are not just senders of businesses, senders of remittances, sorry. Diaspora can also promote trade, foreign direct investment, create business, spur entrepreneurship, transfer new knowledge and skills, aid in our social and economic development sovereignty. When the big countries say no, and they reduce grants and donor funds, we are not negatively impacted like we are now. Hire, and that's a key for me. The governments need to hire qualified persons with a drive, commitment, dedication, and passion to engaging with the diaspora, letting them know that they are valued. The St. Lucia government prepared have a diaspora policy, the only one in the Caribbean, with an approved diaspora policy. There are other countries with different stages of their policy in draft or about to be approved, but ours have been approved since 2015. Okay, and it created the Office of Diaspora Affairs. Now, you have to be important that the level of the ambassador or the person in charge of diaspora and where they are to show the diaspora that you're serious and they matter and that they can come in and bring that wealth of assets that you want and resources that you want. And because of our policy, the Office of Diaspora Affairs was created, an ambassador was appointed who reports to the Prime Minister and the Cabinet of Ministers. You have to have someone who has the ability to engage, liaise with the diaspora, understand the diaspora, be able to tell them, look, the benefit it would be for coming back home. You also need someone who could be involved with the people at home so that they can welcome the diaspora and make them feel comfortable coming back home and giving. And so if we can get that, we also have what we call a union of St. Lucia Overseas Association. And therefore we work in partnership with them to put out the message there that the diaspora matters and that they are important. And this is what we are doing. I don't want Chantal to tell me get off the screen now, but this is what we are doing. And this is what I believe that governments in the Caribbean can do, because we in the Caribbean, if we can bring in all those people, 10 million, and that was 2001. We in 2021, 20 years later. Could you imagine what is that resource, that valuable resource that's out there? We only have land and sea and sky in the sand, sea and sky in the Caribbean, but we are forgetting that we have a resource that is more than gold and oil, and that's our people out there in the diaspora, first, second, and third generation diaspora, because second generation and third generation want to come here. want to come to the island, if we can bring them, and we as a Caribbean work together to trade in and do business amongst ourselves, when things like that happen, when pandemics and other disasters hit us, we can stand on our own 2 feet. We can become economically viable because we have the skills, we have the resources, we have the talent, we have everything, because what they have learned out there should be a pool where you go out there, you see what they have, you learn what they have, and you come back and you bring it home. You want to be here. We need to make our islands so welcoming, so sustainable that our people will want to come and bring back what they have. This is the future. This is the way to go. And it's no longer trying and drag it. We need to get on it right now and push so that when and if, God forbid, another pandemic hits us, we don't have to find ourselves in the positions that we are now. This has a lot, and if I go on, I know for sure I wouldn't be able to stop, and Chantal would throw me out. So I thank you all. I thank you, Island Innovation, for this opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, so I put back my microphone, sorry. So thank you very much, Jocelyne, for this great presentation indeed. This is a very interesting, and I think that we will have some questions for you later. So let's go now to a little lower, to Curaçao, with Vanessa Toré. She's Director of Foreign Economic Cooperation from the Ministry of Economic Development of Curaçao. She has high expectation, I would say, Vanessa, with the slogan, unleashing the export potential of Curaçao. So your Ministry of Economic Development of Curaçao started a awareness program for the creation of on-ground national export strategy 2 years ago now. And the central focus of this national export strategy is to improve the living standards of the people of Curaçao through enhanced export performance. So the priority sectors are tourism, creative industry, education services, financial services, IT services, and port and maritime services. So these are some of the activities that the Curaçao government is undertaking to create an export-driven economic development and inspire new and future entrepreneurs to focus their vision beyond local borders. So, Vanessa, in this context, what is the perspective for us coming from Curaçao? The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chantal. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. To all fellow islanders and all non-islanders joining us this afternoon from all over the world. As mentioned, I work at the Ministry of Economic Development in charge with foreign economic cooperation. And I'm very happy to be part of this Island Finance Forum and also in this panel. And first of all, I would like to thank James and his team at Island Innovation for this invitation. I'm going to talk to you about what's cooking in Curaçao. I will be also giving you some information on areas of cooperation that I identified, and hopefully you feel inspired by that. And also I would like to share some ideas and recommendations that can support efforts for recovery. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, so basically, I want to start off by telling you a little bit about Curaçao. Curaçao measures 444 square kilometers, and it has approximately 160,000 inhabitants. The island has an interesting geographical position in the Southern Caribbean, right off the coast of Venezuela, with several natural deep sea ports and fantastic infrastructure at its disposal. A fantastic IT infrastructure at its disposal. The majority of the population communicates in 4 languages. We speak Papiamentu, which is our mother language, and we also communicate in English, Spanish, and Dutch. Some people in even more languages. Our economy is based on, amongst other, tourism, oil refining, international financial services, trade, and port and maritime services, to name a few. Due to the situation in Venezuela, refining activities came to a standstill in 2019, and the borders with Venezuela were closed. Supply of fresh produce from Venezuela came to a halt, with all the consequences for food supply and prices. Stringent international financial compliance and de-risking activities put our international financial services sector under pressure, and changing fiscal regime made us reorient our markets and services. And then came the COVID-19 pandemic that knocked our tourism sector down, the only sector that was growing in that time. So after a year in a survival mode due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the British variant of the virus landed in Curaçao. A new lockdown, we had to continue support for the companies and job preservation. We had to support and coach our SMEs. We had to support and we still are supporting the unemployed. And at this moment, mass vaccination is taking place. Even though the pandemic will continue to threat us and will not go away soon enough, we are at a point where we need to take next steps. So our next step is to implement medium and the long-term strategies in order to stimulate sustainable economic development for a newly revised road to recovery. So our aim is dynamic growth on a sustainable basis, resulting in a balance between the economic, the social, and ecological dimensions. So a new economic order needs to come, and we need to do things differently and better. We need to build resilience. So let's not waste this crisis. The coronavirus crisis is an opportunity to work towards innovative future. Science, technology, and innovation are the drivers of this change and can also be the means of achieving a sustainable, equitable, and resilient future for islands. So technology and services are at the heart of a new trade development roadmap for Curaçao endorsed by the government, which identifies technology, in particular digital solutions, as a way to strengthen and link all economic activities in Curaçao. So we identified 6 sectors, as Chantal mentioned earlier, and by also engaging technology and digital solutions, we hope to connect all these sectors together and get much more out of them as we have been doing so far. And to stimulate these sectors, we have 4 functional strategies to strengthen and help move this strategy forward. So trade facilitation, trade information, skills and entrepreneurship, and also trade and investment promotion are being developed in order to make sure that these 6 sectors will be successful in the coming 5 years. So very important is also to work on a diversified economy. So measures to guarantee food security and stimulation of agriculture, fisheries, and cattle breeding have been showing early results already since we started a few years back. Parallel to that, we are slowly but surely mobilizing towards a more sustainable economic development where the existing linear economy will be substituted in the end by a more circular, blue, and thriving economy. The prolonged pandemic has caused an unprecedented crisis in the world economy, and the recovery is likely to be slow and uneven. Disadvantages and inequalities have widened, seriously affecting people, companies, and the poorest in the society that face obstacles in accessing networks and financial resources. In order to support a faster and deeper economic recovery that lays the foundation for a more sustainable and inclusive global economic system, there needs to be a reestablishment of the relationship between government and business. As the role of the state has expanded to deal with the crisis, the future will demand a closer integration between the public and the private sectors working together to face challenges, repair what is broken, and seize new opportunities. So we need to work on a more sustainable economic development. We need to work towards achieving a green or blue recovery and a rebuild of economic systems to better use resources and create a climate-friendly future. The pandemic has presented us with both an opportunity and a challenge. The opportunity to move from a growth economy to a value-based and thriving economy characterized by prioritizing long-term value and the needs of multiple stakeholders over short-term growth. Companies have to show that they bring benefits to the society and the environment, and not just to the bottom line. So we need to work on resilience and innovation. Companies need to reinvent themselves to create more jobs, and governments need to find new ways to transform the crisis in a growth opportunity. A good moment also to engage the young. Businesses need to adapt operations and increase resilience. Companies will have to think about how to re-engage with their workforce, how to fix broken supply chains, how to achieve a lower and more agile cost base, and how to reduce operational risks and ensure customer access. Businesses also need to think about what comes next. Changes in the global economy, technology adoption, social norms, and consumer behavior will shape this future. Businesses will need to ask themselves, what can we do now to prepare for what lies beyond? Policymakers must ensure that everyone benefits from the recovery and inequality does not worsen. This includes paying attention to the ways in which the pandemic has disproportionately affected women and girls, for example. We need to mobilize financial resources and investments. Private investments need to transition into a climate neutral, climate resilient, resource efficient, and just economy as a complement to public money. Ensure that investments support a resilient economy and a sustainable recovery from the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. The financial sector has a key role to play in reaching these goals. It can reorient investments towards more sustainable technologies and businesses. Finance growth in a sustainable manner over the long term and contribute to the creation of low carbon, climate resilient, and circular economies. Development of a sustainable finance strategy, which aims to provide the policy tools to ensure that the financial system generally supports the transition of businesses towards sustainability in a context of recovery from the impact of COVID-19 outbreak. And I agree with Dr. Fletcher, we have to engage the diaspora. We have to team up with each other as islands to mobilize development support aid. Curaçao is on a new way, on a new road to achieve economic prosperity. Last March, the government approved a roadmap to realize a donut economy for Curaçao. The donut economy was developed by British economist Kate Raworth, and it connects environmental, economic, and social principles for a sustainable transition from a linear towards a circular economy. The roadmap is a first step enabling the preparation of the policy for the promotion and implementation of a more circular economy in 2030 for Curaçao. The principle of the donut economy functions as a compass with the aim to be able to develop the economy in such a way so that a better balance is created over the time between the fulfillment of social needs of the inhabitants on the one hand, and on the other hand, within the ecological limits of the Earth and Curaçao in particular. Curaçao is the first island nation that has engaged with a donor economy approach. I encourage everyone, all the islands participating in this session, to stick to the SDGs. I encourage islands to join the local 2030 Islands Network. This is the world's first global island-led network devoted to advancing the UN Sustainable Development Goals through locally driven, culturally informed solutions. The network brings together a diverse set of island nations, states, provinces, communities, and cultures from all regions of the world. Islands tied together by their shared island experience, culture, strengths, and challenges. Local 2030 is a network and platform that supports the on-the-ground delivery of the SDGs with a focus on those furthest behind. It is a convergence point between local and regional governments and their associations, national governments, businesses, community-based organizations, and other local actors, and the United Nations system. The Local 2030 Island Network was announced at the UN headquarters in September 2019 during the UN General Assembly. I encourage everyone to visit. And I am one of the advocates, and I hope we can start something today where islands can share their solutions to other islands. So islands can be living labs, islands can collaborate, islands can empower each other. Islands develop sustainable technologies that other islands can also use. Islands have digital solutions developed on islands. Islands can warehouse data. For example, Curaçao has a Tier 4 data center. And islands can also provide financial technologies. So stimulate island-to-island cooperation and solutions to promote a fair and sustainable economic recovery by stimulating, collaborating, and facilitating local grassroots programs with local support and knowledge which can help another island's recovery or development. On a regular basis, have companies showcasing their innovative, sustainable solutions to other islands and build a portal or database where this can happen frequently. An idea that island innovation can translate into action, hopefully. So basically, that's what I wanted to share with you this afternoon. In the more plenary session, I hope to be able to answer questions and that we can engage into a discussion on how to build competitive, innovative, and resilient islands in the coming years. So if you wish to be in touch with me, these are my contact details. And I also encourage you to visit what'scookingcuraçao.com and reach-curaçao.com, where you can get more information on all these developments that I have presented this afternoon. Mashadanki, thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Vanessa. This is great presentation and very clear presentation. And I can say you that we have a lot of questions, so get prepared to answer about the participants that have a lot of questions for you, especially considering the donut economy. Very interesting. Thank you very much, Vanessa. So let's go for the final speakers. Is from the European Investment Bank, Alexandra Almeida. She's a senior officer lending operation from Latin America and Caribbean. So the COVID also pandemic has highlighted the need for international cooperation to mitigate its adverse effects and to promote the economic and social well-being and recovery of the country when they need it most, while maintaining climate action as the fundamental criterion in intervention. In this context, The Latin America Development Bank, the CAF, and the European Investment Bank decide to capitalizing their complementary strength and placing them at the service of the sustainable development and the integration of Latin America and the Caribbean sectors in order to mitigate the infrastructures, investment gap to benefit sectors such as transport, energy, water and sanitation, urban development, health, education, and financial intermediation for the SME. So, Alexandra, in this framework for the Latin America sectors and into the economic recovery, also tell us more about the European Investment Bank participation. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Chantal, panel members, Icelanders, dear audience. It is a great honor to represent European Investment Bank in this panel. To begin, allow me a quick word of sympathy to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the wake of the La Soufrière volcano eruption. Our thoughts are with all of you, and we hope that everyone remains safe. Next slide, please. Well, crises are unfortunately not a surprise to most Icelanders. The main particularity of this one in St. Vincent is that it comes on top of the COVID-19 pandemic and just ahead another hurricane season. As this panel discusses the future, let me leave you with three hopefully positive reflections and present you three topics: the Iceland Challenge, the Team Europe approach, and the EIB as the EU Climate Bank. Next slide, please. Well, Icelanders are indeed considered as a front line for natural disasters. They are prone to tropical cyclones, tsunamis, mudslides, earthquakes, and even volcanoes. In addition to coping with the permanent risk of natural disasters and new challenges brought by the COVID-19 pandemic, several other constraints and vulnerabilities need to be taken into account for small developing island states, and you can see them in this slide. Yet, as other speakers highlighted, island nations offer tremendous opportunities. There is a conducive momentum to rethink Iceland's fragile, one-sided economies. Iceland can be global leaders on the fight against climate change. Through structural reforms, a green transition can be a major contributor to economic reforms, building resilience and provide socio-economic alleviation. It is time to adjust the sails and reconsider partnerships with the multilateral organizations, including the EIB and the EU at large. As we will see in a bit, our concerns and our main priorities seem to be perfectly aligned. Another important strength of Iceland that was mentioned is their capacity to face crisis through reaching out and collaborate with each other and with other nations. There's no better example than what is happening in St. Vincent right now, with all neighboring states immediately helping out in the wake of another major havoc caused by this volcano. This is exactly the point I want to address next. So let's go to the next slide, please. So the boat has cracks and we must fix it and reach the shore safely. In the fight of the coronavirus pandemic and its consequences already a year ago, the European Union has launched its Team Europe package. The objective was to combine and leverage the resources from the EU, its member states, the financial institutions, and in particular, the European Investment Bank, by setting clearly the priorities, improving coordination, and speeding up the much needed support. As such, we joined forces to work on three fronts to counter and alleviate the effects of the crisis in the EU and across the world. Immediately, we actioned health-related support, having contributed significantly to meet expenditure with protective equipment, testing, quarantine centers, etc. In parallel, supporting the development of vaccines against COVID-19. And now we are working on ensuring the equitable and affordable distribution of those vaccines around the globe. The EU, combined with the IB support, is one of the top contributors to the COVAX initiative that will provide free vaccines to 92 low-income countries, covering 20% of its population. We also immediately adopted measures to aim containing the economic effects of the crisis by supporting businesses and notably the micro, small and medium-sized enterprises by providing liquidity during these challenging times. On all accounts, much is underway under a unified and ambitious European response, and in the next 7-year period, the EU will make available an envelope of 79.5 billion euros. It's called the NDICI, or now rebranded as Global Europe, will be implemented to address the specific needs of each region, partner country, and thematic program. Within this setup, of course, the European Green Deal emerges as the new growth strategy. It aims to transform the EU and the world into a fairer, more prosperous society by guiding the transition to greener, more digital, sustainable economies. The EU goal to achieve net zero greenhouse gases emissions by 2050. DIB plays a major role in all this setup, and we will now move on to how we can contribute. Next slide, please. So who are we, the European Investment Bank? Well, we are today the largest multilateral development bank in terms of annual volume of credit operations and in terms of balance sheet. We are 63 years old and we are owned by the 27 European Union member states. We have the best credit standing with a AAA rating from all the 3 major rating agencies, which gives us privileged access to long and cheap funding that we transfer to our clients given our non-for-profit nature. We finance over 400 projects a year around the world. In 2020, 10 billion euros of loans went to outside the EU countries. We are headquartered in Luxembourg, but we have a network of 40 external offices all around the world, of which 2 actually are in the Caribbean, 1 being in Barbados. Next slide, please. So EIB is active in around 160 countries, and already today we are very proud that we are the largest multilateral lender for climate-related projects. But yet still, we have recently adopted our Climate Bank roadmap to deliver on even more ambitious agenda. We committed to align all our financing activities from this year onwards with the goals of the Paris Agreement, to stop supporting traditional fossil fuel investments by the end of 2021, and increase financing for climate change adaptation and support a just and socially fair transition. We committed as well to deliver at least 50%, half of our finance annually for climate action and environmental sustainability from 2025, and to support 1 trillion euros of climate action and environmental sustainability investments in the present decade. Here you can see how EIB priorities are aligned with the priorities and opportunities from island states. And just to finalize, a couple of words on the inclusion element. These objectives go along with a very careful approach with a fair and affordable transition. In addition to special care provided to social aspects, notably gender mainstreaming of our operations. And we will, of course, also pay attention to having an angle on digitalization and innovation. I have 3 more slides. I don't know if I'm running on time, but I would just highlight that this transition to a greener, more sustainable economy is of paramount importance in the post-COVID time. Rowing harder doesn't help if the boat is headed in the wrong direction. So let's make sure that the scarce resources are used in most efficiently manner possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for all the speakers. So now, very interesting discussion. So now let's move on to the question. So as you notice, we have a lot of questions into the chat. So for all the people, don't hesitate to write into the Q&A discussion. So the first question that I have take it for Barbados. If country in Caribbean change a taxes policy during the pandemic, and will do it after the pandemic or not? The question is for Barbados. So Kaye-Anne, if countries in Caribbean change tax policy during pandemic, and it will do it after the pandemic or not? What is your answer for that?
Yeah, from a Barbados perspective, we didn't change our tax policy during the pandemic. The change or conversion of our corporate tax rate for all business, whether it's international business, foreign direct investment, or local business, occurred very early in 2019. We saw it as a part of improving our attractiveness to investors, as a way to making the platform an equitable one for all businesses. So we wouldn't change it out of the pandemic. We didn't change it for the pandemic, and we won't change it after the pandemic unless it is a national policy or a national decision to change the tax rate. So that's the way we would have done it.
Okay, so sorry, can you hear me? Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. So another question for you, Kaye, as I think that you still have the microphone on. What are the top 3 lessons learned that Barbados can share and recommend other Caribbean nations with respect to its endeavor and the advancement of its economy into the future digital currency world?
Mm-hmm. Well, what we learned, and especially, again, this was something we were looking at changing pre the pandemic, but the pandemic kind of sped up our reasons for going into the digital space. But one thing we've learned is that diversification is very important, both in terms of products and markets, and that don't really be afraid of change. The changes into the digital space with payments and for both public and private significantly improve our ease of doing business from an investor or a user perspective. It just made it much easier. And as you know, a lot of persons are all very busy individuals. So if they can do their business online through a very secure platform, it makes it easier for them in terms of managing their time. We also learned the importance of being able to pivot. Sometimes if the change doesn't work, you pivot, you change, you reset, you do it again, you improve upon what you wanted to change, and to be increasingly competitive through embracing the technology that is out there and heading towards the digitization. The importance of being open to new opportunities and continuous training and development of your people to embrace these new technologies, both for the providers as well as the users. Because if you provide something and nobody knows how to use it, then you're not going, there's no success. So those are the main things that we've basically learned. But also, even in a crisis, to consistently provide a user-friendly and welcoming environment for businesses, for investors, for your people.
Okay, so 3 lessons digital, I would say, that you can recommend to your the other Caribbean nation. And so thank you very much, Kaye-Anne. So And now let's go for St. Lucia. Don't worry, you have all questions for you, for all the speakers, right? So for St. Lucia, there are some other nations in the Caribbean with diaspora too. So in this context, what did St. Lucia learn about sister nations in the Caribbean like Guadeloupe, Curaçao, Jamaica, etc.?
St. Lucia has, we meet as a grouping. In October last year, we had the ministers of ministers of foreign affairs with responsibility for diaspora affairs and ambassadors with responsibility for diaspora. There was this meeting. So we know what our colleagues are going through in the region, and the thing about it is that we all are on the same page, we're all singing the same song, we all know the same things, we all understand that we need to have to engage with our diaspora, to reach them. We all believe that the diaspora is the future for social and economic stability in our region. I didn't say one thing though, that in St. Lucia, what we did together was put up what we call a diaspora resource team. So if you're the head of the banks and the heads of Invest St. Lucia, Export St. Lucia, we took all the key areas, the key businesses that the diaspora has to get involved with, government institutions, statutory institutions, private institutions, the heads of all of these. We form a team and we speak to the diaspora and to find out what they need, what their concerns are. And that team is not paid by government, but they come together because they too understand that. And we have a team, that team in St. Lucia, we have quarterly meetings, and they encourage and help and sustain government in their engagement with the diaspora. So we have put that out to our colleagues as well, and we're saying, get the private sector and everybody involved, because it is a all of us thing. It is not a one thing. It is not just the government. It is a all of us thing, and the same story is going throughout the region. So let me tell you, the people who are there now, we are all pushing because we're tired of the talk.
Okay, thank you very much for this clear answer, Dr. Jocelyne. So another question for you. How do you evaluate the tourism impact on St. Lucia first? For instance, how do you address freshwater usage? What waste water or waste overall?
Okay, I can answer the first part of the question. The second part of the question, I'm in diaspora environments. I do not work with the environmental people. So I would have heard certain things, and how I know that our government and the people and the minister responsible for that are actually looking for St. Lucia has clean water, and we manage our wastewater very well. That I know. How they do it, this is not my forte, and I don't dare say anything that might affect my country. Tourism has impacted all the Caribbean, the islands in the Caribbean, because this is our main resource. And no ships are coming in because it's COVID. So there are no ships. And so the biggest income earner for the islands is gone. You have to understand the impact of tourism. The hotels employ a lot of people after the government of St. Lucia, endless people in every sector of the tourism industry. The tourism industry impacts the farmers, because the farmers have to depend on selling to the hotels to feed their guests. Their eggs, their fruits, their vegetables, that is the biggest market for the farmers. That's gone. The little hawkers by the road, the vendors that sell all the nice things to tourists, gone. So you can see what the impact of the loss of tourism has done to those islands, because it is just like saying you 1 minute you had this big pile of sand in your yard to build your house, and then the rain came and all you can see now is a trickle in the yard because it washed it all away. This is what tourism, not having tourism, and there's a spill-off from tourism. The banks, people go and bank. People will work in their bank. People go in the stores and buy because they're working in the hotels. There is money flowing everywhere. And that's not happening anymore. The government is collecting endless taxes from the hotels. That is not happening. So you have to understand that is, I think it's because we have a tremendously experienced, very concerned, caring, and expert prime minister who have kept this country and this economy going and kept us working. And I don't know how he did it. I don't know where he got the money from to keep us still struggling going through. But we have been seriously impacted by tourism, because this is what we made money from. When they come to the ports, the taxes, what customs collect and everything, all that is gone. All that. And if COVID, and I'm praying that COVID goes, that's why we are trying to open up and we are trying to live with COVID there, because it will go away sometime. It went away 100, the other things went away 100 years ago. COVID will go away. We now have to learn to live with it, coexist with it, go back into it and try to live again. If we keep hiding out there, we will not be able, and this is what tourism has done to us. And so now we are moving forward, forging ahead so that we can pick up ourselves and we're hoping to bring back tourism by July.
Okay, so thank you very much concerning the tourism impact, and you're right, and the tourism has a very big impact for the whole Caribbean island, I would say, and it's very interesting about your point of view on that. So the last question, Jocelyne, for just right now, concerning the education, right? What the approach do you take with the returning diaspora concern regarding the potentiality more limited about educational possibility for the children compared to the host country? And what do you offer grants funding for overseas training for island children, for example?
Of course we do. I mean, I am a product of getting opportunities for education right now. And I think there is even more opportunities now for island people to educate themselves. I was in the diaspora, that's why I understand what the diaspora, I went into the diaspora as a young adult. So I understand the diaspora, I understand what it is to be here, and I'm back in my country because I never intended to leave. I went out there to get. How was I able to go? I got scholarships through outside of this country, but my government also, I worked with the government also enabled me to start my graduate education. Now, let me tell you something. The Caribbean has very good educational institutions. We have one of the best in the world, and that's UWI. So you can get your foundation. So not say that because I will not leave, we will say we will not leave the developed world, the first world, and come to the Caribbean because, we won't get good education. That's not true. That is why the first world are taking so much, I mean, we have this brain drain, because our people are highly trained and very intelligent people. We have that in the region. And that is why you think UK, USA, and all those big countries in Canada taking our nurses and our teachers. And so we're saying to them, go out there, like me, went out there, get what we go for is maybe mostly postgraduate education, and specialist skills. We go get that. But when we come, we can come back home and we bring it in and we utilize it here. And a lot of people are here doing that. And so there is no problem with education. We have a good education. In fact, not only St. Lucia, I'm saying this for the Caribbean, because I worked with the CARICOM Secretariat for a number of years as a senior diplomat there. And I know that Guyana is education system is top notch, so they Barbados. So I mean, the Caribbean is a top place if you're talking about quality education, okay?
Okay, so you confirm that we offer grants funding for overseas training for island children?
Yes, we do.
Okay, yeah.
Every year the government sends out what is the national skills, what you need. The government sends out this the training needs, and where they provide scholarships. They're island scholars, they're all scholarships for different things. Plus, the government have partnerships with overseas governments and institutions where they get scholarships from, and they're given to. We even send that out. We in our office send that out to our diaspora. Those scholarships out to our diaspora. So I mean, it's a fantastic
opportunity.
Yes.
Yes, opportunity. And I think that personally that a skill and education in Ireland could be also one of the fundamental or principal key issues concerning the economic recovery. So I'm totally agree with you. Thank you very much, Jocelyne. So let's move on to Vanessa. Vanessa, we have several questions for you. When looking at the pandemic and how Curaçao primary financial income is through tourism and financial services. So would you say that the economy suffered greatly due to the lockdowns or not? First.
Oh yes, like in any other island in the world or any other country in the world, it affected the economy deeply. A lot of people lost their jobs, companies went down the drain, but we were very early in creating programs to support the companies, so financial support to companies, but we also developed a program to support the SMEs, because SMEs are 95% of the companies in our economy are SMEs, and for 60%, they contribute to employment. So we initiated a program with coaching and advisory services and training for the small businesses, while also supporting them financially in preservation of jobs, but also to change the business model towards a more digital technology oriented business activities. Not all the companies were able to change the course of their businesses, but a lot of them made good use of the support, and they also obtained very good guidance during the lockdown periods. So at this moment, we are again in a lockdown due to the increase of infections. Due to the,
and how did the government manage such an issues concerning the lockdowns?
Well, we had to apply for loans to be able to invest in these things. So we need to pay it back one way or the other. But we also were able to advance certain strategies. For example, the national export strategy. Since 2019, when we identified that technology and digital solutions would drive our economic development, due to the pandemic, we were able to prove that, and we were able to accelerate certain developments. So immediately, a lot of things were possible online. A lot of digital solutions came, very quickly to come with solutions for certain issues that we had, because we needed to, to change from a more an economy where people were very much engaged and connected with each other physically towards a more digital connection. So we were able to move forward the strategy, and we were able to continue strategizing, and we are in the final stage of this national export strategy, where we will be able to start implementation very soon after the summer. So basically the pandemic, we are in a very bad shape economically, as many other countries, but there is a perspective by changing the course of the economy, by adding more sustainability aspects towards the economy, stimulating more activities in other sectors than the traditional sectors. We see an opportunity for us as an island, for us as a small island, to come with a different path to recovery compared to what we have been experiencing before the pandemic.
Okay, so I noticed that you decide to finally to help to put the money more on the private sector, on the other sectors, the traditional sectors. So I think that it's a good way to decide to take the challenge, to open your sectors and say, okay, we have to focus on traditional sectors, but also to open to other sectors and on private sectors to give more more strength, I would say, and I'll say trust, in order that you can create a virtual cycle, economic cycle. This is exactly so. Had the pandemic not take place, do you think that would the Curaçao economy stay the same, or even if you don't have the pandemic situation, do you think that you will decide to implement environmental change, for example?
You know, before the pandemic, we were going towards economic growth for after many years of, zero growth. So tourism was going very well. Investments were projected and taking place. The tourism markets were growing. So we would have experienced a slight growth before the pandemic, and tourism being the only sector that was really growing, because the other ones, due to everything I explained, the crisis in Venezuela, compliance and de-risking, and all these things that happened that affected the economy the last couple of years, tourism was, seen as the most promising sector. And the pandemic came, and definitely tourism got hit very hard, and we had to, reorient and redefine how to continue. So happily, we were already in the process of diversifying the exports of Curaçao, because tourism as an export sector, but also port and maritime services, financial services, they are all export services. So we were reorienting and diversifying our economy already, and also focusing on sustainable development. We have an energy policy which is very much geared towards sustainable energy. We're busy with the blue economy and circular economy. So we were already working on several other areas to diversify our economy. So if the pandemic did not hit, we would be still working on the national export strategy, on circular economy and other initiatives, because we already started. Because in order to grow and also thrive as the circular economy is focusing on, we need to look at the longer term. So the SDGs were also a part of the plan. We have a national development plan based on the sustainable development goals. So we were already looking into the long-term and sustainable economic development in Curaçao. But the pandemic made us accelerate, made us work harder to realize these
and take the risk. And take the risk, maybe. So we have still 5 minutes to conclusion, for the conclusion, and stop this panel. But the last question for you, Vanessa, is with the donut action economy cycle that you present, you are taking for the island, how you will get younger generation and students of interest into the environmental field to help take part in that?
Yes, by engaging them. We've already been doing that. We went to schools. We are giving presentations in organizations and secondary schools and primary schools to engage them into this whole circular thinking, and also to try to get the young people on board and make sure that they are part of the whole development, because it's an inclusive process. Everyone should be involved. Everyone should be part of it. And so by engaging the youngsters, by getting them on board, by giving them a chance to speak out, to engage, and also to include it in the curricula, in the various levels of education, we think this is a way to engage them in the process. So that's what we've been doing. We will continue doing that, and hopefully we can see a lot of interest from that segment of our society.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. And the question, I'm just getting the clock. I think that we are still on time, James. So for Alexandra, you mentioned sustainable food in your slide. Can food be sustainable first? The first question. And what action are you taking to make it sustainable? And what is the plan, the European Investment Bank plan in that aspect?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the questions. You know that part of the changes actually don't cost money. It's behavioral changes. So for sure, we can make food more sustainable just by wasting less, by buying local products, etc. So these are changes that every one of us can make. But beyond that, of course, there's a whole transformation of how we produce food and how to go about it and to make it more sustainable. What I can tell you is that already in the period from 2015 to 2019, the IB Group has dedicated 32.7 billion euros to co-finance the agriculture and the bioeconomy sector. Of course, the majority of this is in the EU space, but also 13% of that went to non-EU countries. We finance projects across the agricultural, fisheries, food and forestry value chains. Our focus is on food quality and security, sustainable and inclusive rural development, climate smart production. We also focus on innovation, on resource efficiency, forestry, all along the food value chain. I can tell you that even myself, I have been engaged in financing through leasing partners, the acquisition of more climate-friendly equipment for agriculture. So it's not just about the food, it's how we produce it, the equipment that we use, so how to waste resources on that. To give you some examples of non-EU agriculture projects, I can comment about a rice production loan we made in Senegal, sugar sector diversification in Mauritius. So this is just to tell you about two projects that were financed or co-financed by DIB. If you do have projects in this sector, do contact us. We are available to hear you, your ideas. Last year, for instance, this was the big topic of the EIB Institute Social Innovators Award. So we are looking for new ideas of how to make food more sustainable. We received the applications for wonderful projects, and you cannot believe the amazing creativity of people around the world. But the first thing is we need to acknowledge that there is a problem. That's the first thing. The second one is that we need to acknowledge that all of us can contribute through our changing our own behaviors. But then, of course, for more structural across the board changes, we do need financing, we need banks, but we need also, of course, the multilaterals like EIB.
Okay, thank you. So I see that the time is to stop. So James, tell me if we still have an opportunity for the last question for Alexandra, or do we need to stop? James?
If you're able to just wrap up the conversation in 2 or 3 minutes, that would be great. Thank you, Chantal.
Okay, so for the conclusion, Alexandra, because you are on the part on the financial aspect from the European, you talk about that the most of the half of the budget of the European Bank is go for the climate project. Mm-hmm. For what is the ideal island sustainable project suitable to be financed by you?
I don't know if James can upload my presentation on slide 7, please, and that I could wrap up my presentation very quickly. So I would like to talk to you about what are the criteria that we look for in a project, but also to give you a few examples of projects that we have recently supported, and also projects specifically on climate that we have been financing all over the world in island contexts. So James, thank you very much. So basically, we are a multilateral public bank, so we cannot finance everything. We operate under policy-driven objectives and mandates. So projects must be eligible. They must be aligned with our priorities. And as you said, Chantal, right now is all about climate. They must be technically viable, economically profitable. They must to comply with rigorous social environmental standards and with our EIB procurement guidelines. We are very demanding when we appraise projects, but we are of course also there to help. So what are the advantages of having EIB financing these projects is that EIB can fund with very long maturities, which makes it easier for projects to generate cash flow and pay back. We have very low interest rates, and we can of course help out throughout the process in structuring the project. We can also, when we are involved, we can also have a strong signaling mechanism and attract other investors and other lenders to the project. Another important element is that we cannot finance a project alone. Typically, we can only finance half of the project cost. To give you very quickly some examples of projects we have financed, I asked James to move to the next slide. These are the recent operations in the Caribbean. There's a lot of information, but we'll make the slides available to you. Of course, over the past year, our activity was dominated by COVID-19. So you will see that our lending was mostly going into microfinance and to SMEs to provide liquidity for small businesses to survive all this lockdown period. But we also financed Barbados Water Authority to rehabilitate the island's drinking water distribution network and wastewater treatment. We have in place a regional technical assistance program. And already in our pipeline, we have more support, still COVID related, because as we know, the pandemic is not over yet. And our efforts at the moment are still dominated very much for health sector and vaccine support. The next slide, which is the final one, is just a quick...
Start wrapping up, thank you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so it's about the examples of projects that we finance on climate, but we will be able to see them in the presentation that we will make available. I am here, and I can also then you can reach out to me and I can share more information with you with great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. And my conclusion, we say very thank you for all your presentation and very interesting discussion, because I think that we made the job saying that the objective of the session was to present how the Smart Island project could continue to be a beautiful opportunity after the post-COVID situation on economic recovery and inclusive growth. And I think that we have all information today so that we can continue on that. So thank you very much, all the speakers and all the participants too. Thank you very much for your all discussion in the chat. It was very interesting. And unfortunately, we have to stop now. So James, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. That's the end of the panel. Really enjoyed those presentations. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you in a few hours for our networking session, where you'll also be able to meet representatives from Invest Barbados, who are our lead sponsor there. So thank you all so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye, everyone.